My new book, Pillars for Life, A Guide to Spiritual Ethics and Practice, is now out and available for you to read and purchase. You can check out our website, willowhealing.org, to find a link, or you can find it on Amazon. We look forward to getting your feedback, and if you love it, please leave a review and share with your friends. Now it's time for the show. Welcome to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We are so excited to have you joining us on this journey where we explore different ways to empower your soul, whether it's healing in your kitchen or all the way up in the corporate world. Come with us as we look into different ways to heal your mind, body, and soul. Hey everyone, it's Catherine from Willow Healing, and today I'm here with Marko Petrovic. So prepare to journey beyond the ordinary, as our guest today is a visionary world explorer and two-time best-selling author of Soul Path and Embrace of the Elements. Steering away from conventional paths, Marko has ventured deep into the heart of ancient cultures, unearthing wisdom that he weaves into transformative experiences. He's not just a guide, he's a gateway to the mystical, leading soul-stirring expeditions to Earth's sacred corners with the MARA project. Strap in as we explore the unseen and rediscover the magic infused in every moment of existence with Marko today. So a big welcome to the show, Marko.
Thank you so much, Catherine. Great to be here.
So there's so much to unpack there. So the first thing that is even popping into my head, what is the MARA or MARA project, which I actually haven't heard of?
Yeah, great question. So Mara project is something that was born out of my pilgrimages through Mexico. I did a 9-month period of silence where during that time I got to experience many things that I guess few people would in today's modern day and age, where you have to give yourself such a large chapter of devotional time in a vow of silence is quite something. And during that time, Mara was this word that spoke to me. And initially, I thought it spoke to me because that's also my grandmother's name. That's actually the lineage that I carry. So my name, Marko, comes from Mara, which was my grandmother.
Yeah.
So it had like a nice personal touch like that to me. But then as time went on and I actually studied it, I realized that Mara is actually the expression of the union of life. Ma, when you look at it, mother, madre, madre tierra, mama. In so many different languages, ma is a reference to the givers of life. And then you have Ra, which is an expression of sunlight, like the rays of light, Are, right? So to me, Mara Project is nothing more than a simple mission to connect people to that energy that inspires life, where we have the union of what allows us to breathe each and every moment. And in terms of what the Mara Project does is it offers some products, some physical products from plant extracts and special little things that I've learned along the way through my pilgrimages in the forms of physical products. And it offers some retreats and some deep dive immersions. For example, I have a 7-day one coming up in October. I'm in Europe right now, but we have one coming up in a few weeks as well, a short weekend one. So it's also an opportunity to invite people into allowing themselves to breathe with the sacred more often and to invoke it into their day, each and every day.
Yeah, and I think that's such a beautiful concept that you've created about that immersion with life and, Pachamama, Mother Earth, Gaia, whatever you want to feel into that mother energy that comes through, and that you've then accumulated all that knowledge from your pilgrimages and that 9 months of silence. Wow, like that would be so incredible. And I could imagine you got very friendly with the voices in your head at some point along that journey.
Yeah, absolutely. The voices in my head, but also the voices that I never knew were there. And to me, those were the echoes of my soul, the symphony of my ancestors, the rhythm of nature itself and the way that it speaks, and allowing myself to realize how much communication is actually happening each and every moment that I was completely blind to.
Yeah, which is is that where your book inspiration came from, through those pilgrimages and through that time in silence and coming back to Mara?
Yeah, the book was, it's called Soul Path, right? So the book was just mostly an encouragement from others. I never imagined that I'd be sharing my stories in the way that I do now. I didn't go out there so that I could accumulate cool stories, but I went out there to live an inspired life, and I accumulated cool stories as a result. And oftentimes when I recounted some of those stories to like close friends or family, they'd all say, wow, this sounds like a movie or like a book. You should write something. You should share this somehow. And I guess with enough encouragement, I started to appreciate that this actually has quite a ripple effect on people, like at least a significant impression. So I sat down for most of 2024 and wrote about 70 versions of the book until I was happy with it and felt like it reflected
Wow.
the devotional piece that that chapter of my life was. And
Yeah.
that's now, a little collection of 22 short stories around that time of the 9-month period of silence. So some of it was before, some of it was after, some of it was during, but it was like a collection of 22 short stories where people get to ride shotgun with me. I wanted to be a voice for here's what happens when we give our all to life, rather than giving someone the 7 steps to live a life in line with the universe. I just wanted to say, hey, here's what happens when you give all of yourself to life, because I feel like that's what we're lacking in today's day and age, more direct experience, right? There's no shortage of information. Like you can find everything you want on YouTube, but what we are lacking is direct experience. And so from my heart of my hand, it's like, here's my direct experience. Here's everything I did. And here's the mess ups I had. Here's the blessings. Here's the treasures I discovered. And whether it's entertainment or it's profound insight, like take it all, to take it however you like. And it's got some journal notes along the way as well, so people can tune into some of what I experienced on a more intimate level too, rather than just the story.
Yeah, and I think it's such a important note to remember that we can get the information, whether it comes from within us in that point of where you're meditating or silence, or whether the universe, if they want you to know something, right, it'll put it right across your lap, and if you keep ignoring it, it'll just keep turning it up, turning the volume up to the
Yeah.
point that you can't block it out anymore. And, there's been this big pull, and I love that you have this, blend where you're starting to bring in these ancient rituals, because we as a society have forgotten how to connect with the land and how to connect with ourselves at that deeper level, because we just are distracted by so many things in our life that we forget how to actually be in that deep form of connection. And did that inspire then you creating this new how you run your retreats and how you help people connect more in with themselves?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, it was a awareness that many times when I find myself in exchanges with people, specifically like when we start to explore some of these deeper conversations, that people would oftentimes reflect like how they feel like they open pockets of awareness that they didn't probably have as a result of a conversation with me or some time that we might spend around the fire or something like that. And I realized, well, it kind of makes sense. I've lived a fairly unique life, and that unique life choice that I made has also allowed me to cultivate myself in a particular way that few people will give themselves, 9 months of silence to get to know life at that level of intimacy. And for me, there's also an awareness that that's not everyone's path. Like, not everyone has to go spend extended periods of time in silence, but some people might want to spend a weekend or a week in a deep immersed experience where I can offer that transmission. And so for me, it was an awareness that I've lived the path that I've lived, so I can offer a transmission from it, not so that everyone can go and live the path that I've lived, right? And the transmission for me is a life through truth and connection. Like that's the simple underlying message behind everything I do. And because we can't really have connection unless we have truth, right? And I don't speak about
So
truth
true.
as a fixed state of this is true and this is not. No, it's like truth is something that evolves with us as we evolve, right? So at one level, we might experience a truth. And then, like one of my great teachers, Don Tolman, who wrote the foreword to my first book, he beautifully expressed, you've got truths and you've got truer truths. Doesn't make one right and the other one wrong. It's just in layers, right? So for me, it was about appreciating that we have truth to encounter at layers. And as we go along the journey of encountering it, that we can experience ever greater connection. And to me, that piece around connection is so vital because that's what allows us to know the beauty of life.
Yeah, and it's such a beautiful point that you bring up, because, often as humans we forget the actual power of being connected with not just ourselves, but with those around us and earth and, the divine, and all those different levels of connection. And, what you said too about truth and that deeper level of truth, it's like when you look back on your life, you're like, why did I do that? And I think the most important thing I got told is you did the best you knew at the time, because that was your truth at the time. Whereas now you've got more wisdom and hindsight, you can look back on that and go, oh, now I can see the truth in that. And what you said, that description of that truth, and then there's more truth. The truth. It's definitely that layers, right? That you keep pulling it off, you keep, doing the work, and, it's not all roses and like in your quote when you were filling out your form, crystals. It's not all light and crystals and roses and that sort of thing. It is really hard living through life. It is really hard to move through those ups and downs and keep that trust and that truth happening for you despite what's happening around you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like that's one of the important pieces around spiritual communities, conscious communities, new age communities, etc. That there can sometimes be a steering towards that which is nice, that which is pretty, that which is beautiful, that which is like light and love and butterflies and crystals and candles and incense and all those sweet things. And they all serve their place, right? So I'm not bashing them in any way. But if we only steer to that side, then we don't give ourselves the opportunity to understand the yin and the yang, right? The darkness and the light. And for me, that's that piece around truth, of coming to terms with the fact that we may not necessarily enjoy every single step that we take in life, whether it's for our own errors in judgment and the way that we took a step, or whether it's because life delivered us a certain situation that we didn't anticipate, that we didn't enjoy for whatever reason. But that's where connection, where we have the opportunity to really express connection in a much deeper way, and where we get to know the truth of life.
Yeah, exactly. And it's through, being inquisitive and, seeing what that, experience taught you and what it meant, and having that deeper level of inquiry to find the truth, or your truth, I should say, because it's your truth. It's not anyone else's truth, because your experiences and your trauma is different to the next person, the next person. So whilst I'm sure, we can all say, oh, this is what happened for us, it might not be relatable to the next person. We all have that unique truth.
Yeah. I have an interesting spin on that that isn't too popular, but I find it to be practical and useful. So I'd love to share it, which is that,
Go for it.
like oftentimes when I encounter situations like that where people are like, oh, well, I've got my truth and you've got yours. And not really. I've got my opinion and you've got yours. The truth is the point where our hearts recognize the oneness. And that's that piece of connection that I was speaking about,
Yes.
right? And so we have our own illusions and ideas and opinions based on traumas, how life formed us, the decisions that we made, right? So I have my opinion, my perspective, but is it aligned with truth in the way, and with the way that I relate to truth is that piece I mentioned where the heart connects, right? If I'm distancing myself from you because I have my truth, well, that's not my truth. It's a mask that I've put on to say, like, no, like, I think better. I think I'm right. And that creates separation rather than connection. Whereas to me, truth creates connection. It's that point where we both feel it and it resonates and it's undeniable. And we go, well, like, that's what it is. And then at that level, like, depending on our level of awareness, on our level of personal development, like, we'll see the truth at one level, right? But then you might come back to that truth, like an insight or a teaching that you experienced. You might come back to it a year later or a decade later, and you'll be like, huh, well, I never saw it like that. Like, there's so much more to it.
Exactly. And I love how you phrase that, because it is. It's like when that heart recognition, because our heart has more understanding than what our brain can ever put into this world.
Yeah.
And when you realize the power of the heart and that connection that you have with another human, and just everyone, if the heart sees everyone as equal, it's our mind that takes over and tries to diminish that truth of that connection too.
Yeah, definitely.
So you've got these two books out, and the second one, is it a focus on elements? Is that the theme of the second book?
Yeah, the second one, it's called Embrace of the Elements. And that one for me was about temple wisdom. And when I say temple wisdom, I'm talking about the body, right? The temple that we live and breathe in every single day. And why I speak about that is because sometimes what I'd encounter is like people along my journey of quote unquote spirituality, let's call it, as a large umbrella term, and learning how to live in greater connection with life. What I find is like I meet certain people along the way that kind of struck me as people that were fairly well cultivated in their practice, but that they didn't really embody it. And the embodiment piece I'm speaking about is how they looked after their body, like their actual temple, right?
Mm.
So, like the person who, like I'm going to use a very basic but like simple example, like the person who sits and speaks about vibrations and crystals and the importance of energy and like how energy flows, doesn't go and exercise or go for a walk or give their body the space and freedom to move. There's a lack of integrity to that. And what that lack of integrity is for me, it's not a judgment on my part. It's just an awareness that, hey, how much richer would your life be if you actually brought those two together and you were in integrity with the crystals in your own body, the water is crystal. We know that from the studies of Masaru Emoto and looking at the crystal structures of water under a microscope. We know that water carries crystal energy. So if I'm 70% water in my body, 90% in my brain, water, then I'm mostly crystal in liquid form, right? And so how do I connect to my own crystals? Well, there's certain pieces that are just the simple laws of nature, like LORE, law of nature, that is my connection with the fire, with the air, with the earth, with the water, and with space, ether, love, however you want to label that fifth element. So for me, embrace of the elements was that how do I, like all this beauty that I appreciate outside of me, how do I actually come into good relationship with it inside of me, so that when I sit, when I hold myself, when I express, that this channel can actually serve as the vessel that it is, the vessel of life, so that it can breathe life into a conversation, so that it can breathe life into a song, so that it can breathe life into poetry, or like whatever the mode of expression is, even if it's non-verbal, if I'm exercising, so that I can breathe life through it, rather than carrying around pains and niggles and all this stuff that like our body's not designed to naturally have. That's not normal. Normal for me is a body of vitality, and it's available to each and every one of us. But there's these pieces that we're not taught. Like we're given a body, but we're never taught how to drive it, as a metaphor, right? Whereas before you can sit in a car and drive it, which is infinitely more simple in terms of complexity of structure as opposed to the body, infinitely more simple. You have to get a license before you can drive it. You have to know where to put the petrol. You have to know that, like, if that lamp turns on, it means I should probably go see a mechanic, right? But we never get that with our bodies. So embrace of the elements is my best effort of simplifying over 15 years worth of wellness study that I've done and practice into a very simple, succinct way that people can apply it in their lives and start to experience life at greater depths through this beautiful temple, the body.
Yeah, and there's so much in that. I want to follow through. Let me think first. All right, so I love that you made that comparison about the integrity of, like, carrying your practice into looking after your body as well, because so often, and I was guilty of this when I first started, like, I call it my spiritual reawakening, because really it's just turning everything back on. But the big thing was I just wanted to stay up there, and I kind of forgot that I had to still be in my body, because I was just like, oh, look at all this information, and I found myself, and I've got this peace and everything. And then it's like, actually, no, you have to stay in your body. And, I went through this phase where I had all these weird pains showing up, and I just learned to, use gratitude for that, because it was actually reminding me to stay in my body. It was like, hey, you got to come back down here and actually work on your temple, because if this doesn't work, then nothing else will work, And I think that's a lot of things that people do forget, is that, we do need to look after our temple. We do need to look after our body. And it's not when you get to a state of crisis that you look after it. It's when you're in that state of, oh, I'm at homeostasis right now, but what can I do to keep this, and keep elevating my health and keep making sure this temple is working even better each day?
Yeah, absolutely. And like that piece of integration that you mentioned is really important when we kind of take a backseat, like you mentioned, it's homeostasis, and we realize that like all the insights, the communications with that divine intelligence in whatever manifestation of ways that it can reach us, right? It can be synchronicities in our life, it can be beautiful visions and insights, it can be profound meditations or sound healings, whatever it is. Like all of that stuff's great, but how do we make it practical in our lives? And that's the piece that I feel is really important to speak about, like on integrity and integration that you're speaking about. Like, cool, like I saw all this beauty, but how do I treat my body? Do I treat it with that same reverence? Because if it wasn't for this body, I would have never connected to that.
Exactly.
Like this is my medium of communication.
Exactly. Yeah. And
Same
our
thing for
soul
like
chose to have
for
this
the house,
human
right?
experience. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, exactly. And because our soul chose to have this human experience, part of that is having a body and learning how to walk around in a body and feel the emotions and process the emotions, and still be able to, discern and come back to the truth. And so you can have that heart connection, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The deeper piece for me around it is recognizing that it's a game to play rather than a task to complete. In that, like sometimes people who take on more devoted paths of spirituality and stuff like that, they can treat it like a job. Like this is serious, and it is. It's not a joke, but you can have fun and you can play the game of life. And so, like, one of the main
Okay.
manifestations of how I dance with that is to recognize that, like, anything that I push away from me, like, I'll speak to some of the common things, like, oh, yeah, like, I don't want to put myself out on social media because, like, it's a manifestation of the matrix, or, like, I uh, need to have my space quiet and serene and peaceful and my incense burning so that I can meditate. Or, like, if I'm not in my yoga studio, I can't do yoga. Like, whatever it may be, people have these different riffs of ideas that they'll start to carry with themselves. The truth is, this is all divine. Like, I don't prefer being in an apartment. I'm living in an apartment right now, right, for a couple of weeks. I don't prefer it. I'd rather be in nature, by the ocean, in the forest. That's my preference. But this isn't any less sacred. Like, this mostly
Mm.
came from Earth. Someone's hands and heart and mind went into creating this structure, into putting it all together. And sure, it's an expression of the matrix, but it's about how do I dance within the game? Like, how do I play with it? Do I become the game so that I forget who I am? Or do I just recognize that, hey, this is just part of the game? Like, this is one of the illusions. Being in a city, in a place where people are caught up, working 9 to 5, chasing their tails, paying one bill to the next. Well, that's part of the game. I can move through it and be unaffected by it if I don't have a charge around it. And the charge is, forest good, city bad, right? So for me,
Mm.
it's been
Mm.
beautiful to explore integration through where are the charges and where's the actual growth for me. So I mentioned social media before. Like, one of the big growths for me was when I went to Mexico and I sold everything that I owned and booked a one-way ticket with nothing more than a suitcase and a guitar. I deleted all my social media. I was like, I'm done with this world. Adios. I'm off. And
Yeah.
that was great for a little while. And then I did my period of silence. I got around to launching the book 4 years later, and I realized, hey, you know what? I deleted my Instagram account that had over 10,000 followers 5 years ago.
Let's
What would
start
have happened
again.
if I just stayed in a better relationship with it? And for me, it was fine. I chose to start again, and it made sense for me. Like, there's deeper reasons for why it made sense, and we can speak about it. That was definitely part of my journey. But the piece around integration for me was when I realized that, like, actually I need to be playing this game. That when I leaned
Mm.
into it, I wasn't leaning into it from a place of like a distasteful charge that I had to it. Rather, it was looking at it and saying, well, how can I play this game? And how can
Mm.
I bring my essence to this so that it's just an extension of who I am rather than me feeling like I'm fabricating myself or like I'm out of touch with the sweetness of life, which can many times happen when we spend a lot of time on technology.
Yeah, and it's so true because I broke up with social media as well. So I know exactly what you're talking about, Marco. And then I was like, I need clients. I need to connect with people. I want to, I want to share messages and get it out to the world. At the moment, the quickest way to do that is through the door of social media. So I actually called in the energy of social media and meditated with it. And we had a big conversation because I was like, how do I make sure I don't end up in the same state of mind I was last time? So I get on, I connect with strangers because I love doing that and learning from strangers because you never know what they have to share or what you can learn from them, and seeing
Mm-hmm.
them and acknowledging them. And then I post and then I get back off. And because I find if it's meant to be in my feed right when I open it, it will be, or my husband will manage to find it and send it to me anyway. But at the same time, it's just you're using it how it aligns for you, not how, it's like controlling in your temple, getting super sucked in to being like scrolling on
Yeah.
that for hours and just doom scrolling. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a question of how we use the tool.
Exactly. Exactly. It's like, are you being used by the tool or are you using the tool? And as we start to finish our time together, Marco, I asked the guests that come on the show if they could heal or change something in the world, what would it be?
The way that people cherry pick through different spiritual traditions and lineages, and I change it so that they give more attention to honoring the way that tradition has been laid out, because it's there for a reason. And it's there for the reason that many, many, many people gave their lives towards following these traditions. And sometimes what saddens me is seeing people that cherry pick what they like and what they don't like. And in that cherry picking, they miss out on some of the important insights that life has to offer.
Mm, interesting. That's such an interesting perspective. Yeah. And I guess it's being also curious to actually exploring the whole tradition, right? And understanding and asking why. Why was it like this? And why was it all collaborated this way?
Yeah.
And why did it all get woven together? Because often, especially the ancient rituals, have so much story embedded them, and the stories themselves have the message that you need to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. And realizing that, I don't know why, but for some reason it's like when we speak about it being an ancient tradition, it's like old stuff. Like it's not what's current right now. It's more current right now than ever before because it's actually tracked evolution for thousands of years. And so when I ask someone the humbling question of like, well, consider your life, consider everything you've done with your life on your devotional path, consider the meditations, the retreats, the transformation, the self-work, all of it, right? Now multiply that by thousands of lives that have come before you.
Mm.
They've laid out the tradition for a reason, probably through a lot of trial and error and becoming really wise around ways to do things and ways not to do things so that we can navigate this world with the finest grace that's available to us.
Yeah, exactly. So beautifully put. And where can people come and find you, Marko? I know you said you're back on social media. And where can they find you and come follow you?
Yeah, best place is on Instagram. So my handle is Meet Marko, EETMARKO, and then all the links, everything is in my bio from there. That's the heartbeat of my social presence.
Perfect. Me too. I will connect with you and then we can be connected. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Marko, and sharing a bit of your journey and how you just came about all these ancient traditions and how you're sharing that wisdom in the world now. So thank you so much.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you, Catherine, for the conversation. It's been great. I've had a great time.
All right. Thank you for listening to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We have so much love and gratitude that you have taken the time out of your day to empower you on your healing journey. The views shared by the person being interviewed might not necessarily reflect that of the host and should be used at your own discernment. Trust what resonates for you and follow your heart and soul guidance. If you have any underlying medical conditions or mental health issues, please consult with your healthcare provider before pursuing any of the recommendations. Likewise, you can always contact the person being interviewed to find out more information. This can be found in the show notes. Remember to activate, align, heal, empower, and find love in everything that you do.